Welcome to the Community Foundation of Middlesex County's PR and Evaluation Workshop.
Congratulations. We're so thrilled to be able to support your great work, and we appreciate all that you do for the community, all that you do for your members, your clients, those that you serve in your footprints. We know you do great work, and we are so excited to find ways to help share that out, both with our supporters and with the general community. So a little housekeeping. I always do my housekeeping. Going to stress the housekeeping. The full name is Community Foundation of Middlesex County. In your announcements, once you use the full name, you can then refer to us as the Community Foundation or CFMC. Please do not refer to us as the Middlesex Community Foundation, the Middlesex Foundation, or just the foundation in general, because that does cause some confusion. If you are doing a longer announcement, you can always use any of these quotes. Grant funding provided by the Community Foundation or funded in part by the Community Foundation. We know a lot of both of your projects and programs, as well as general operating support, have lots of funders, lots of supporters. We know that funded in part is a great way to stress your way of leveraging funding to make your programs and services possible. In your original letters, you had one or more funds that were part of the pool that made your grant possible. You are always welcome, and it's much appreciated when you mention the fund by name, even just once. It helps emphasize to the community that as a community foundation, not only do we have a wonderful unrestricted grant making fund that allows us to respond to various needs, applications that come in, but we have people that are very committed to the community and start named funds with the Community Foundation. And it's a way to honor their families, honor their love of community and their desire to continue supporting the community even long after they're gone. So that's why we include those funds. We do like to give them big shout outs for what they've done over the years to help us make an impact through our grant making in the community. If you can't locate your original grant agreement letter, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to send that to you again. But in the shorter announcements, I do want to stress, while you are welcome to acknowledge those funds at any given time in your full announcements, we do know that for some of you, there may be 4, 5, or 6 funds, and that's a lot to include. So you don't necessarily need to do it on an Instagram post or on a Facebook post every single time, because we know it takes up a lot of space, and sometimes you have other funders that you want to include as well. So that's when you can just use the Community Foundation of Middlesex County. If you haven't spent much time on the new website, just as a reminder, how you find the marketing your grant as well as the grant evaluation section is if you hover over the nonprofits in the master menu at the top of our website screen. Under resources, you will see marketing your grant. On that page, you will find the grantee communications kit. You'll find links to a short form on our website. If you just have a quote or a quick photo that you want to include for some shout outs, you can reach out there. And it also has the logos. It's got the Community Foundation logo. And for those of you that are supported by our wonderful grant making partnership with GSB, formerly known as Guilford Savings Bank, we have included their footprint into our grant making. We're one of 4 community foundations they now partner with that they've turned their grant making over to. So we do ask, if you are funded in part by an award through the GSB fund here at the Community Foundation, you use the dual logo of, which I'll show you in just a moment, because it does help us emphasize that GSB continues to support their community, and they are now working through community foundations to do that. So, how to use our logo? For the most part, we do ask whenever possible you use the primary logo. That's the big one with the tagline underneath. That is the full official logo of the Community Foundation. We know sometimes space is limited, so you can use the logo without the tagline, which is in the lower right. There are times when you need to just use the circle acronym. If you use only the circle acronym, we do ask that somewhere in the announcement or nearby, you do at least in writing state Community Foundation of Middlesex County, and then in parentheses, you would put CFMC. We ask that because while our circle acronym is becoming more and more well known in the community, it's still not universally known. So sometimes if people see the circle by itself, they're not sure what that refers to. So we do ask that that's only used in conjunction when you have mentioned the full name of the Community Foundation with its acronym in parentheses somewhere in your announcement or your thank you or your acknowledgement. As I mentioned, some of our funds do have special logos we've created for certain purposes. If you would like, if you have a chance to use one and you would like to use one, or if you want to know if one of your funders has one, you are more than welcome to send an email and we will send a full JPEG or PNG file with the combined logo. There are several examples here. The Fund for Women and Girls, the Sarah A. Rosenbaum Fund for Women and Girls does have a specific logo that we use for those grants funded by that fund. Our newest members of the competitive cycle, the Deep River Cares Fund, we're so thrilled to have that group doing so much on behalf of Deep River. We have developed a logo for them when it's predominantly funded by them. As for those of you that may have been funded by the Janvrin Fund, we have one that you can use for that as well. And as I mentioned, we are so honored to partner with GSB and handle their grant making in the Middlesex County region. And we have a dual logo that is available on our marketing page for those grants. Ways we thank our donors, and you help us thank our donors. I can't tell you how much we need stories, articles, and photos. We love to share those, and we use them in so many ways. We also love thank you cards and letters. This is an example of one that we received one year from a group of students that received a grant through the Janvrin Fund. It was a lot of fun. We shared it at a board meeting. We've used it in our community reports. It was so exciting to see all the kids had signed a thank you card. We love video snippets, and I know many of you have started putting video snippets out on your social media or you've sent us links. We are pulling those down. We're getting those loaded onto the new site as quickly as possible. Whenever possible, we put them in our YouTube channel as well. If it's a reel on social media, those sometimes we have a little more difficulty in capturing, so bear with us. We are working on that. Or if you built it outside and then loaded it to social media and have a video file you can send to us, please use a cloud transfer site like Dropbox. And you just send us the link, give us permission to download it, and we'll be sure to share those. We are working to get site visits back in place as we come out of all of the craziness post-COVID and crazy flus and all of these other things that are going on. We are trying to get visits set up. We love to come and visit. Our board members and our committee members love to come and see what you're doing. I know several of you, I have already reached out to see what we can set up in the spring. But if you have something going on and would like to invite someone from the Community Foundation to come see it, please, by all means, shoot me a note. Whenever possible, a little leeway is helpful because sometimes with schedules, we're not able to make everything or we don't have a volunteer available, but we will do our best. And then, of course, which we'll get to in a little bit in the presentation, the evaluation narrative is essential to us helping to tell your story. Not just the numbers, not just the basics, not just the we did this program, but the stories. So how we use your stories and photos. So here are some examples of different things that we've pulled out. We do track your social media. If you're on social media and you don't see the Community Foundation is following you, please just send a quick message to either Mary or myself. We do try to track and make sure we're following all of the nonprofits that we support in a variety of ways. But sometimes that's a lot of nonprofits. And sometimes we may miss someone. So if you have a page, a group page, an actual organization page on either Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, let us know if we're not following you because we will go out and find you. Some organizations create infographics for their supporters to help explain the impact that their supporters are doing. If you make one of those, please send that to me. That you'll see the Magic Food Bus Fast Stats. They created that for the supporters of the Magic Food Bus and sent it to us so we could share it with our board and include it. We included it in a story that we had in our community report. We share letters with and thank you cards with our donors and our fund representatives. Our board meets 6 times a year, and as part of our board meetings, we do continue to update the board on all the great things that you're doing. We share the videos, we share the screenshots we capture from social media, we share your stories. Anytime you're sending a story out in a newsletter, if we don't receive your newsletter, feel free to add me to your newsletter distribution platform, whatever you use, whether it's Constant Contact or MailChimp or any of those. That's one great way that we try to keep up with all the wonderful things that you're doing, that particularly that which is supported through our funding. We share that out. We also load things on it. We're loading all the time now on our website, news stories, the impact. We create an impact video each year. And that also includes a lot of your photos. I can't stress to you how much we need those photos. We know some of you serve at-risk populations, and you always have great questions. How can we show what we do when we serve at-risk populations? There are lots of different ways. So for example, on the right here are photos from Shoreline Soup Kitchens and Pantries. Their volunteers very generously offered to be in a photo. Masks are always a good way to mask a face. Sometimes it's the work that you do. It could be, in the case of the Shoreline Soup Kitchens and Pantries, it was all of the food that they were getting ready to distribute. Sometimes it's bags that are already ready. Sometimes it's a mock-up photo where a volunteer has offered to have their back to the camera and be the client while someone at the organization is working with that person for the photo or the video on something to show exactly what they're doing. Another great example is on the left. Read to Grow did this one for us a couple of years ago with a grant for the bookmobile. This, I have to tell you, the funders for this and our board and our community have loved this, not only because of the creative way it was able to show the students that actually received books from the bookmobile, but they loved all of the titles that showed up on in front of their faces as they were holding up their favorite books that they picked up that day. So that was such a wonderful way to do it. And we've had some very clever ideas because we want to protect your at-risk populations, but we know that you need to stress exactly how you're working with them. Stock photo is also great, but please make sure that you get your stock photo with the appropriate licensing. Please don't just clip any image off the web and send it to us, because if it does if we do find out that there are copyright issues, we can't use it. The same thing if you are creating videos, and I'm going to say this right now while it's at the top of my brain. If you are creating a video either for us or for your organization in general as a way to say a thank you, and you put music on it, please be sure that you are using music that you have the license for. Okay. There are a lot of free, good free music sites out there that provide music licenses for you to use the soundtracks too. There were a couple of instances where we received several years ago adorable videos, and we could share them internally with our staff or at a board meeting internally, but we could not post them. We could not load them to our YouTube channel and share them with the broader community because they used copyrighted music that the licensing had not been procured for. and we are unable to use those. So just as for your own well-being, to make sure you don't get in trouble with anyone, be sure that if you're using music, it's stock music or it's music that you have procured the licensing for. Short snippet videos are a lot of fun. We've had some that are about 20 to 30 seconds where it's just a big thank you. We've had some that are 2 minutes. We've had some that are longer. We love those. We do, if the video file is sent to us through a share platform, we will download it. We'll put it up on our YouTube page and then load it to our website videos page. We share it out with donors and on our board meetings. If it's a reel on a social media platform that we're on, we're happy to share that back out as well as like it to make sure that people are seeing it. You can highlight a program. You can do just a thank you. You can show your impact in action, whatever works for you. We've gotten some great in process videos of the students at, for example, at community music school, and they're out there practicing and getting ready to show off all of their artistic capabilities. Several years ago, Complete Streets in Durham did a wonderful unveiling of bike racks. Those were a lot of fun. So we will use those whenever possible. We're also beginning to incorporate more QR codes into our community report that drive people back to our videos page to show off all of the great things that you're sharing. How to get videos to us. As a reminder, video files are really big, even if it's just a 30-second video. And so they don't necessarily come through email well because we do have limits on the file size that can come through our email system. So please use a cloud share platform to get those to us. Don't have a cloud share platform, don't know how to use one, that's not a problem. If you let us know that you have one, we actually use Dropbox and we can create a share folder for you where you can upload that video. I also want to stress, if you have a lot of photos, like a lot of photos, you had a great program, you can't wait to show off all of your photos. Instead of trying to 2 or 3 at a time send them to us, if you have a share platform, you're more than welcome to use that to send us a file folder with your photos. And if you don't have one, we can create a share link from ours so that you can get those to us. I can't stress how much we love photos. As a reminder, I do have a page. You will get all the PowerPoint slides as well as the recording for the video after the presentation. But please, if you're new to a lot of the copyright and privacy issues, this page is very important in our slides. And just a few things to keep in mind. Most people, if they come to an event or a big program, know that you may be taking photos and you could be sharing those photos on social media. It's not a bad idea to have a few signs up, maybe at registration, or to make an announcement at the beginning of your program that you are going to be taking photos. If you're doing individual photos specifically to talk about one of your programs or a service you're offering, it's a really good habit to actually have a release form. We have some template release forms. We're happy to share those if you don't have one, that just basically says the person knows that they're being photographed and that they give permission for their photograph to be used. Same thing in videos. If you are sharing stories or articles with us or quotes, we know that some people don't necessarily want their names out there. You're more than welcome to put a pseudonym on a quote, or let us know that someone doesn't mind their quote being used, but they don't really want their name used publicly. We appreciate that. If they do want their name to be used publicly, just please let us know when you send it to us. You can include it in the body of the email. Let me stress that if you get photo releases, we don't need your photo releases. We just need an email stating you have them on file. The same thing for in your videos. We also know that people are very concerned about children, particularly on social media. We are also very cautious. We never use a child's name on social media. And if you are using children as part of your thank you photos or your impact stories on your own social media, just make sure that you're not putting their full names in there to protect those kids. And I talked about the music, but I do have a reminder here in this section about how with copyright laws regarding music. And if you use Vimeo or YouTube and you try to upload a video, it will check for copyrights because the music tracks do have the licensing embedded in them. So you can find your good news that we share out. We constantly, Mary is so good about tracking the social media. She tries to share out all of your announcements, anything that we see pop up, particularly if you tag us. The more you tag us on social media, which I'll show you in just a sec, the better, because it makes it a lot easier for us to track it. We also have a hashtag that we use to track any mentions. We also, if you send us stories in the lower right in the article block about the Girl Scouts that appeared in one of our community reports a couple of years ago, they sent us a great update about two incredible young women in our footprint that had received awards through the Girl Scouts of Connecticut. And so we featured that story, the same thing on the Magic Food Bus on the lower left. We are rebuilding a lot of with our updated website. We have revamped a lot of our posts that we send out about good news and what's going on with the grants, the impact you're making. So we're rebuilding a lot of that. Your stories can show up there. And then in the center section is an idea of how sometimes you may just have a quote. That's great. Just a comment about what the impact was. And if you send us a photo, we'll create things to post along with that. We do have a YouTube channel. You're more than welcome to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's CFDNMC on YouTube. We also link all of those onto the video page on our website. It's now can be found under news and events right there. We categorize them, so please feel free to check those out. And whenever possible, we'll share those out through both our e-news and through QR codes in our community report. And we do share those with our board, volunteers, and our funders. The very first question we get is, when do we submit our evaluation? It's a really good question. And I should have put a slide in that says, and I think actually I did. So I'm probably getting my slides out of order here, so bear with me. I want to start with the when, because I get emails all the time. When should we do our evaluation? I so appreciate you asking that. You all are on top of everything, and it's very impressive, and I really appreciate it. You can send your evaluation at any time after the grant funds have been expended. For example, some grants are for a specific program, right? Maybe it's an 8-week program. So you're at the end of 8 weeks. You've expended all of our funding, all the other funding everyone else has done to help ensure this. You have all of your stories ready. You've got all of your photos. Go ahead and submit that evaluation. You do not have to wait. It's all done. Maybe it is ongoing service or ongoing program that you're doing, and it just keeps going and going and going. So at the point when you've expended the funding, or you feel that you have good stories as well as data to share, you can submit that evaluation. And that also goes for those awards that are for general operating. The other time to consider submitting your application is if you're considering an application this fall. So we're getting ready, just as an FYI, we're getting ready to open another application session. It's part of the same funding year. So everyone who received a grant in the fall is not eligible to apply in the application cycle we will be announcing within the next week, okay? Because it's part of the same funding year, which is 2025. But come the fall or next spring, you could potentially be eligible to apply for a grant again. At that point, we do want to receive your final evaluation. If there are hiccups, and hiccups do occur, and we know that occurs, and maybe your funding needs to be suspended for 6 months longer because you had a little hiccup. Something didn't work exactly the way you thought it was in a program or a service that you were hoping to launch. That's okay. Just give me a heads up in an email. You have a delay. If we're entering a funding cycle where you might be eligible, we do have an interim evaluation you can submit just so we know what's going on. But we don't necessarily run a hard and fast rule that says at the end of 6 months or the end of 8 months, because we know a lot of it depends on you and it depends on the services that you're offering. We also get the question, like, exactly why are we doing this evaluation? If we're sending you updates and stories, isn't that enough? The evaluation tells us the final story or the final point in time story. And it tells us that as far as you're concerned, the grant award has been concluded, and you are saying we have ended this specific grant award from the Community Foundation. We have a responsibility to report on how our funding is used. As a community foundation, we are soliciting support from throughout the Middlesex County community and beyond. So we have a responsibility to show that we know how our funding is being used. We know that it's being used in the way that it was requested and it was awarded. And we have a responsibility to the donors in the community to report out on the impact of the grants that we are giving. And that ties in with your responsibility to tell us that you did use the funding in line with the application. If you needed to make some minor changes, just give me a heads up. If you need to make a major change, you need to touch base with me and see how it's going to align with your original application. But when all is said and done, there is a responsibility to say to the Community Foundation, we so appreciate your support. And this is how it was used. This is the impact it made. This is how many people it served, or this is the services that it ensured we were able to provide. This is how it made sure we had enough staffing, or we had enough outreach, or we were able to make sure that our mission continued moving forward. We did talk about the timing for your evaluations, but there is a reminder slide in here. Where do you find your evaluation? So we have, and I'm going to stress a couple of things on this slide and on the website, because some of the budget forms we're getting, there's a little bit of confusion on that. So where do you find the evaluation? The evaluation is submitted online if you haven't done one before, just like your application. Once again, go to the nonprofit section of our website and you will see a link specifically for grant evaluation. On there is a link to access the evaluation form, but there is also a budget to actual summary form. So I really want to stress this because I have had to do some follow-up in the past with different nonprofits on this. The budget form, summary form that you submit with the application is not the budget form, budget to actual form that you submit with your evaluation. There's a difference. The one that you will submit with your evaluation shows what you originally projected your budget to be, and then has a column for your actual cost. Because we know sometimes what you budget and what actually happens isn't necessarily just the same, right? Maybe your printing, your printer was willing to give you an in-kind portion of what it was going to cost to print something. So you were able to maybe spend a little more on food or bring in an extra speaker. So the budget to actual shows what you originally budgeted on your application versus where you actually ended up having your expenses come through. And it's a download, it's a Word document. If you have problems with it, let me know. We're happy to get that to you. On that page on the website, there's a great big blue box that says General Evaluation Report. That's the one you're going to use. You want the General Evaluation Report. Like I said, it launches, it's an online form just like our application, and it does have the save and continue option. As a reminder, as you probably experienced with the application, you have to remember to capture this link before you send it to yourself if you're using save and continue. Once again, all of the in-process evaluations, just like applications, are saved on a temporary server I cannot access. If you don't capture this link, I cannot get it for you. I can't stress that enough. My dear friend at Mark Community Resources, Lori Lodge, several years ago came up with the best idea. She always drafts her narrative in a Word document, and she said the very first thing she does is she sends herself a save and continue later submission request for the link. She captures that link before she clicks send link, and she puts it at the very top of the Word document where she's drafting her narrative. And that way she always has it because it's always the same URL for you. Until you submit your application, that temporary link is the same. It's always the same for you. It's just yours. It's just I can't get out to a server to find it for you. And in the email address example that she put there, please note that's your email address you will enter, not Mary's. She was just showing it this as an example. But it's the email address where you want the email to send. And it should send you a reminder email. Sometimes the server gets a little glitchy. They don't necessarily get out. That's why you should always copy this link at the same time. I get a lot of questions. What's the difference between a programmatic evaluation versus a capacity building, maybe professional development versus general operating? Here's my hint. They're really all the same, right? Programmatic evaluations, project-based evaluations, those are really simple and straightforward, right? You have a beginning, middle, end. You have something specific you applied for. You have something specific that you are going to report on and its outcomes. Your capacity and your general support are very much the similar thing. So think about it. If you have gotten a grant for professional development for your staff, on a very specific topic that's moving the organization forward, not only are you going to talk about what you learned during that development or who attended that development, but how it's moving your organization forward. And it could be moving your organization forward in a mission or a specific program or a service that you're doing. How did it help the organization in general? Same thing for general support awards. What is it why is that helping you do what you do? You're still going to talk about your impact outcomes. You're still going to talk about the number you served, any specific goals you achieved in general. Sometimes you have a lot of things going on and you need to do lots of things. So you can focus in on one or two that really sort of tell the story specifically about what your organization does and how it moves forward. Refer back to your original application. Okay, so one thing I often notice is the questions or the narrative that's given is very informative, but sometimes it gets very theoretical or it's got a lot of broad national statistics, but it's not really tying back to anything you mentioned in the application that you actually wanted to accomplish. So we want to make sure that not only are you telling us the story of how your organization is serving the community through a project or a program or in general, and how your organization is continuing to do that, but you're going to refer back to your original application because that's where you were telling us about what your goals and objectives were. Did you get there? Were you able to do it? Did you come across any little bumps in the road and you have to make some adjustments? Did something come up that you had never imagined and you would not have found it out without being able to do the program or the service? And what did that do? What new objectives may you have now identified that you want to reach? We always want to know who, both the qualitative who are you serving, but the quantity. How many people attended? How many were you able to serve? Did you accomplish what you hoped? All of these are questions and things that you need to talk about. The biggest question too is, or not the biggest one, I should say, but sometimes people are afraid to tell us that they ran into glitches or delays because they're afraid that maybe it means that something went wrong. I need to stress that doesn't mean anything went wrong. It means that maybe you had an idea and when you actually went to put it into practice, something came up you never thought about and it had to adjust your timeline. Or it meant that you had a whole new question to ask yourself and the people you were serving through your project or your general services that never occurred to anyone because it really wasn't on the radar. And that's totally okay. Everything that you do is not only of benefit to the community, but it's a great learning experience in general for your organization, as well as for us as a funder. This helps to inform us going forward, not only as we continue to consider applications from you, but in general, as we're looking at what's going on in the community. You may raise an issue that you confronted, never knew about in your evaluation. And if you are in your community, that means it could be in other communities. So that becomes something that we need to know about and we want to track and pay closer attention to. And of course, as part of your evaluation, there's always opportunities to share stories and photos and videos and quotes and news releases, all those wonderful things that you're doing throughout. And we bring those in and we repurpose them quite frequently. And I will say this, Mary's really good about finding ways to repurpose, particularly sometimes we'll get a question from a community magazine or a website, or for those in the lower county footprint, events magazines will often reach out to us if they've got an empty block in their layout. They'll say, hey, anything going on in this town through the community foundation? So we are constantly repurposing your stories to help spread the word about your good work and putting it back out and making the connection. Social media. You can always use hashtag CFMC_CT. We do track that. We put that into the search channels on various social media platforms that we belong to, just to see if something we're missing. But really, I can't stress this enough. If you are posting something to Facebook, please use the @Community Foundation MC, or if you follow our page, it should start to pop up. When you click on that, it will actually tag us and it shows up in our alerts. Same thing on Instagram. If you can actually use our handle on Instagram and tag that, if you follow our Instagram page, it should pop up. We track those. That's the best way because, like I said, Mary and I both are out on social media a lot. We're trying to find all of them, but I know periodically I'll do searches in general for our name without any like handles or tags, and I'll find a few. So we don't want to miss those. We keep sharing that out. That will get more people coming to your social media pages to see what you're up to, because we're sharing it out to our followers, and they may not know about you. They may not know that you're there. So we're trying to make sure that they circle back and check you out and hopefully follow you and increase your audience. We have included a new page to our social media channels, and that's on LinkedIn. We're just getting up and running with that. But if your page is on LinkedIn, or you as an individual on LinkedIn, please follow us on LinkedIn. We really appreciate it, and help us share that good news out. We do, whenever we load all of our videos to YouTube, and then we pull them down and reload them to our video site, our video page on our website with snippets. But you are welcome to follow us on YouTube if you want to share out through YouTube in general, or there's something out there and you want a direct link. We are at CFDNMC. And of course, if you have any questions or need anything, you can always reach out to either me or to Mary, and Mary sent her regards. But if you have specific questions, just shoot an email. If you're not sure about something, shoot us an email. We're happy to answer those questions whenever we can. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions out there, any comments, any ideas.
Well, once again, I just want to say thank you for putting this on. Thank you very much for the information. Is there anything in terms of the foundation, if we have like any additional questions or reporting, or like just want to say like, hey, do you think this KPI kind of matches with what was in line with what you're thinking about funding? Like, is that conversation allowed? Or I know there are restrictions around grants, so I was wondering if that's the same case with reporting and evaluation.
So, and that's a really great question. Thank you so much for asking that. And it's actually, there are two parts to that. So the very first part, as JJ said, he's new in his role to connect with us. He's probably not the only one. So if you are a new team member with your organization, or you're a new volunteer, or a volunteer that's now been tasked with the role of being the liaison to the community foundation, we are always here for questions. Always, whether it's through email, or if it's like a lot of questions and you want to schedule a conversation, shoot me an email with some times. We are here and happy to have those conversations. We really try to be a connected funder. And I know stories from people, from all of you, on some other people, where it's really hard to get in touch with a funder, or it's really hard to get a question. We don't want to be, we really want to be there and connected with you, because What you're doing is how we tell the community what we do and why supporting the Community Foundation is important and how we're using that support. So connect in, right? We're happy to have those conversations. So then that leads to an expanded yes, JJ. If your team is having a conversation, particularly if you're new and you're not really sure what types of responses we're looking for in the narrative, the broad question is, we're looking to see how you did and to find out more about you and your work in the community. That's really what we want. I think that we don't ask hard questions, right? We try to leave it pretty open-ended because each of you are different. You all are doing different things. So we want you to be able to respond in your voice, in your way. All we ask is don't just send us a 2-sentence evaluation. I'm going to stress this. 2 sentences doesn't tell us anything, right? And there are character limits. So it's not like you get to write forever either. Okay. It's just like the application. But tell us what's going on. Help us share some stuff. If you have a great snippet that you just say, oh my gosh, this is the perfect way to explain what we do at SSKP. So here's the quote. We're going to share that out. Those are the things that we're looking for. But yes, we are also looking for numbers. And the numbers are for our footprint. Okay. So I'm going to stress that, particularly JJ, in your case, where your footprint is much larger. What you're reporting on is our footprint. We want to know the connections in our footprint because that's what our funding is supporting, is our footprint.
Well, I was just going to add to, if I might, a comment you made there in response to JJ's question. And I wonder if what he might have been getting at is some funders, you're not supposed to talk with them, right? You're supposed to just apply, you're supposed to keep that distance. And I would just throw out there, because I caught that aspect of his question, I might throw out there, and Thayer, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Community Foundation is a nonprofit organization. They're very open to conversations. They're been very collaborative and happy to make our applications and reports fit the criteria. Correct me if I'm wrong, Thayer, that if there's an opportunity that an idea is somebody's trying to flesh out, you've been very open, at least it's been in my experience, to conversations around, hey, am I making a legitimate request here, and so on, as opposed to some funders where you're not supposed to cross that line. Correct me if I'm saying that incorrectly.
You are not. And thank you so much. Yes. So if I didn't really address, I think you're right. I didn't really push that enough. Rick, thank you so much. I so appreciate that. And many of you know my colleague, Cynthia Clegg, and she has said this over and over and over again. And if she could have been with us today, she sent her apologies because she wasn't able to join in this morning. She loves to come in and congratulate you all. She would say the same thing. It's not just your evaluation. It's not just the stories specifically associated with our grants, our funding. It's anything. That's why I said, whoever's in charge of your email list, have them look for my email address. If I haven't signed up for your email address, you have my permission to add me to your email list because I want to see your e-newsletters. But if you have something special going on, or if something's come up, or you have this weird, wacky, out of left field question, whether it has to do with your funding or in general, stay in touch with us because we really do want to stay in touch. We want to be open. We love conversations. We love conversations. We need to know what's going on because you never know who's going to walk in the door and ask us a question. The only way that we can answer questions from the community, from individuals in the community about what's going on in our community, is if we hear from you about your updates, your stories, your new news, your ongoing news, or an issue that you've confronted that maybe you had not really considered. Have a wonderful day.